111 people died, and many of them were children.
The challenge was delivery. Sulfanilamide in its solid form was remarkably safe, but it was a bitter powder that was hard to swallow, especially for children. The S.E. Massengill Company, a reputable pharmaceutical firm in Bristol, Tennessee, saw a market for a liquid version. They tasked their chief chemist, Harold Cole Watkins, with a straightforward goal: make sulfanilamide easier to take.
Chapter 1. The Fatal Choice. A decision between cure and catastrophe.
Watkins discovered the powder wouldn't dissolve in water or ethanol, but it dissolved effortlessly in diethylene glycol. It produced a clear liquid with a sweet taste that masked the drug's natural bitterness.
The powder is too bitter for the children, but it dissolves perfectly in this
diethylene glycol.
It's clear, it's stable, it's elegant.
Any toxicity tests, Harold?
It's a solvent. I've tasted it myself. It's sweet. Ship it.
But the solvent Watkins chose is a poison. It targets the kidneys and liver.
The moment the substance hit the bloodstream, it made a beeline for the kidneys. In the cortex, the outer shell that does most of the filtering, it strangled the tiniest vessels. Deprived of blood, whole neighborhoods of cells died in place, and death didn't stop there.
The acid attacks the kidneys. Cells swell and die, physically plugging the tubes that filter waste. The body effectively drowns in its own toxins. The most terrifying sign was anuria, no urine. Toxins rose, followed by convulsions, coma, and finally death. There was no antidote.
Watkins wasn't some evil, mad scientist out to poison families. He was a chemist, doing exactly what was expected of him in 1937, to find a liquid that dissolved a stubborn powder and tasted sweet. Water failed. Glycerin failed. Then a clear, syrupy solvent made the cloudy flask transforms. He even tasted it himself. The villain here wasn't the chemist. The villain was a system that didn't require him to test it on a rat before giving it to a toddler.
The instrument of death, every parent in this tragedy was forced to be the executioner. They held the spoon.
Here, one big spoon.
Dr. James Stevenson in early October 1937. Dr. Stevenson noticed that several of his patients weren't just failing to get better, they were dying in absolute agony with total kidney failure, anuria. He realized the only common denominator was the new elixir he'd been prescribing. The telegram. On October 11, 1937, he sent a flash telegram to the American Medical Association AMA and the manufacturer S.E. Massengill Company, warning them that the drug was killing people.
Here's the wild part. In 1937, a sweet, raspberry-flavored medicine was killing children across the country. The FDA knew it, but under the law back then, they couldn't pull a drug simply for being deadly. Inspectors scoured the rulebook and found one loophole. The bottle called itself an elixir. The word elixir legally meant a medicine dissolved in alcohol. Because Watkins used diethylene glycol instead, it was technically misbranded. That single word made the deadly syrup a fraud in the eyes of the law. Inspectors pulled it from shelves before it could do more harm, stopping a mass poisoning.
The manhunt, as the death toll climbed, the FDA realized they didn't have a recall button. They had only 239 inspectors for the entire country, and they sent every single one into the field. It was a race against a poison that killed with agonizing precision. Agents weren't just checking warehouses. They were digging through 20,000 handwritten sales slips in dusty back rooms. But for 107 people, the agents were too late. Out of this tragedy came the 1938 Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act FDCA. Before 1937, the FDA was basically a hall monitor with no detention privileges. No power to stop a dangerous drug before it hit shelves. No safety testing required. No clinical trials. Companies could release whatever they wanted directly to the public, and regulators couldn't touch them unless they caught them lying on a label. We're talking cocaine toothache drops for children, heroin cough syrup marketed by Bayer. The same people who make your headache pills today sold over the counter as a non-addictive alternative to morphine. Opium-laced soothing syrups for fussy babies. Radium water that was supposed to give you energy. What a time to be alive. The 100-plus deaths occurred because the S.E. Massengill Company created a liquid version of the drug sulfanilamide using a solvent called diethylene glycol DA. This decision was made purely because the sulfanilamide powder dissolved easily in the DG, and the final product tasted sweet which they thought would be good for children. The company conducted zero toxicity tests on animals or humans. They just blended it and shipped it. Diethylene glycol is highly toxic to humans and causes devastating, agonizing multi-organ failure, primarily targeting the kidneys. It is the core ingredient in many antifreeze formulations and industrial solvents. Here is the craziest part. The FDA literally did not have the legal authority to seize a drug just because 1 teaspoon was killing children. When the FDA rushed in to seize the remaining bottles, they were legally only allowed to do so on a technicality, because they had no regulatory power over drug safety yet. They had to prove the drug was misbranded. Legally at the time, an elixir had to contain alcohol. Massengill's Elixir Sulfanilamide used de-edge, not alcohol. The FDA didn't seize the bottles because they were poisonous. They legally seized them because they didn't contain alcohol. And for over 100 deaths, the owner didn't serve a single day in prison for manslaughter. He wasn't charged with murder. The company just paid a $26,000 fine for a mislabeled bottle, and Massengill went right back to running his business. And that's why the FDA exists the way it does today.